Good evening. This is James Exum coming to you from my studio in South Austin, Texas. It's Friday, I believe it's either the 5th or the 6th. Yes, it's the 5th of December, and it's approximately 7:45 in the evening. I'm continuing now with my series, A Yogi Goes to Washington. This is episode number 3, I believe that's right. And I will title this one, tentatively, I will title this one Dharma versus Deceit. Okay. So let's just dive right in, if you don't mind. This will be a discourse inspired by political activity I see going on in Washington. As you well know, my yogic name is Sakshi, S-A-K-S-H-I, which means the witness, and I've been witnessing what's happening in Washington since I sat on my dad's lap as a young boy, about the time that Eisenhower was running for his second term in 1955. My dad would read the newspaper with me. In fact, that's how I learned to read. That's by sitting on my dad's lap and reading along with him. So again, let's dive in. A Yogi Goes to Washington, episode 3. Today, in Washington, D.C., several activities resonate with the themes of Dharma, which is righteousness, and deceit, which is happening all over the place up there. It's happening in congressional testimony. It's happening behind the desk of the presidency. It's happening in his press room. It's happening over at the State Department. It's happening over at the Department of Defense. I will not call it the Department of War. It has not been legally changed, that title. It's happening in news reports, in Sunday talk shows, evening talk shows, comedy presentations in the evening. It's all over the place. And it's to sum it all up, it's just a mess what's happening up there. And it's been all brought on by the current administration. As you well know, if you have an open mind and a logical ability to understand what's occurring. So today in Washington, several activities resonate with the themes of Dharma and deceit explored in this discourse. Notably, community groups are organizing political rallies and public discussions focused on ethical decision-making and personal integrity, not to mention political integrity. Where has that gone? These gatherings encourage participants to reflect on the importance of truthfulness in civic life and political, paralleling the yogic emphasis on living in accordance with Dharma. Additionally, some local organizations are hosting volunteer events aimed at fostering compassion and service and reminding us that small and intentional acts, whether community service or mindful daily activities, can be powerful expressions of righteousness in the modern world. On the other hand, current debates in Washington, D.C. regarding transparency and accountability in government, more exactly the executive branch, highlight the ongoing challenges posed by deceit. These events serve as a real-world example of how the struggle between Dharma and deceit are self-evident. This evidence serves as a real-world, these events serve as a real-world examples of how the struggle between Dharma and deceit is not limited to personal choices, but extends to societal and institutional levels. By observing these activities, we are invited to consider how the principles discussed may be applied both individually and collectively, inspiring a more truthful and compassionate, political, and informed society. We need to stay informed. These are trying times. They're trying on your wallet, they're trying on your patience, they're trying on your social etiquette. In the journey of spiritual awakening and self-discovery, we are constantly met with choices that challenge the very fabric of our values. Now, You have to remember, even though I'm writing on a political subject, and have been in the last 2 episodes, and this will be the third one, there should be 8 to 10 of these, maybe 12, I'm not leaving my position as a yoga philosopher. I'm merely utilizing my position as Sakshi, the witness, to inform the general public of what's happening in these, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, in these dangerous times. This is a very dangerous time to be alive, folks. And I've lived 75 years, so I know dangerous times when I witness it. In this series, we're exploring the choices through the lenses of yogic philosophy and everyday experience, inviting viewers to reflect on the perennial struggle between Dharma, which is righteousness, and deceit. This discourse seeks to expand upon these themes, engaging the seeker, which are any yoga students, whether you be on the mat or in the yogic libraries, in a conversation about living truthfully in a world full of temptations, illusions, and lies. Understanding Dharma, the path of righteousness. Dharma, a Sanskrit term rich in meaning, it's spelled D-H-A-R-M-A, Dharma, and meaning embodies the principle of living in harmony with cosmic laws and ethical conduct. So this is just not a national situation I'm discussing, and it's not even a global situation or a solar system situation. This is a cosmic situation. Dharma is a cosmic ball, so to speak. For yogis and spiritual aspirants, Dharma is not merely a set of external rules, but a deep inner compass guiding one's actions, words, and thoughts toward truth, compassion, and integrity. And in my opinion, the Empower Party has lost its internal compass, or it's been affected by the magnetism of their dear leaders' spoken words, and not to mention his threats and the way he utilizes office like some sort of New York City thug, and I'm saying that, I'm an old man, they want to come after me for that. I'm here. In the context of the modern world, where information and choices abound, Dharma calls upon us to act with clarity, selflessness, and a sense of service. But he's doing none of these, and his minions are doing none of these qualities exemplified in the series through this protagonist's mindful witnessing of Washington's questionable rituals and interactions, not to mention actions. Deceit is the veil of illusion. Deceit, by contrast, is the distortion of truth for personal gain, convenience, or avoidance of discomfort, not to mention the jail cell. It can wear many faces: the lying, manipulating, self-deception, or even subtle rationalizations that justify what we know in our hearts to be wrong. Now, remember, this is just not ad-libbing I'm doing here. I'm actually reading from my discourse that I wrote on this subject this afternoon. Every day I try to write a new paper or discourse, a little theme, a little whatever you want to call it. And that's my presentation for the evenings. One thing I want to clarify before I continue is that, yes, I'm writing these, and they may appear biased in your eyes, but these are my thoughts and my opinions, just like everyone else out there has their thoughts and their opinions. So the thing I want to clarify, though, is the fact that I proofread these and 2 or 3 times, and in doing so, I change phrases that you may think are not very conducive with a yogi's language, but I softened them up. I promise you, I softened quite a few of these sentences for you. Lord, had I presented them the way I presented them, who knows what would happen to this old man? Who knows what happened to Jeffrey and that crowd? The yogic tradition warns that deceit, while often appearing as an easy path, ultimately leads to suffering. It either leads to suffering for the deceiver or for the deceived. Well, we're in the deceived seat at this moment, and it creates division within the self and with others. In my series, A Yogi Goes to Washington, moments of ethical dilemmas arise. Should one cut corners, hide mistakes, or just gaslight and lie the hell out of anything you can think of as your defense? Build up lies straight out of hell is for anything you can use as your defense. This series uses these scenarios to highlight the subtle ways deceit can creep into Washington life. Well, it's not creeping. It's like a bull in a china shop. It's in full thrust, charging. So the struggle between Dharma and deceit, the battle between Dharma and deceit is not just external, but profoundly internal. These are my words, carefully chosen and written to hit home. Each day we face choices, big and small, to test our commitment for truth. The ease of deceit often tempts us when the path of righteousness seems arduous or unrewarding. The protagonist in the YouTube series, which is myself, through the act of conscious witnessing and conversations woven throughout this journey, demonstrates that the struggle is universal and ongoing. Well, I mentioned that earlier. To choose Dharma is to choose discomfort at times. I'm not always comfortable telling the truth and staying on the path of righteousness. It's a razor's edge. You have to be so careful. To choose Dharma is to choose discomfort at times, to risk vulnerability and accept responsibility for one's actions. Well, I accept responsibility for every word I have recorded in the 76, 77, or 78 videos I've done so far since May of this year on my YouTube channel in my studio. The yogi response is cultivating self-awareness. This is on a political level. I don't care if you're a congressman, I don't care if you're a senator, I don't care if you're sitting in the Supreme Court. These suggestions apply to you. Yoga teaches us that self-awareness is the key to overcoming deceit. Through meditation, reflection, and honest self-inquiry, a practitioner learns to observe the impulses that lead towards deception. As a child, you know you're about to tell a lie when you're caught, not cleaning your room, and mom stops by the door and leans in and says, "How are you doing after school?" And she also sees the mess you left there this morning. I'm gonna tell you a real quick story. I'm gonna go off on a tangent here. Old men like to do this. And here it is. One day I came home from school. I'm in high school. My mom's there, my dad's there. I'm the last of the 6 children still at home. I'm at home, and I'm in high school at Chicora High School there in Charleston Heights, South Carolina. And my dad sees me come through the front door, and I say hi to him. I go over and kiss my mom on the cheek. They were both retired, and I head back to my bedroom to, just do what I was going to do back there. Well, Dad kind of clears his throat, and in my family, that was always a sign that there was a storm, or at least a mini heavy breeze brewing in the neighborhood. You have to remember, this is an old man. He was 50 years old when I was born, and now I'm talking about him about 16 or 17, so he's in his 60s, late 60s. And he says, "When you're done back there, come in the kitchen, I'm going to have a talk with you." And I said, "Yes, sir." So I hurried up, and I was done, and I walked down the hall and past the living room and down the open way and over to the kitchen, and then I sat in the informal kitchen dining room, which there was a small 4-table seating in the kitchen itself. And that's where we had our daily meals. Formal meals were in the dining room. And he's sitting there waiting for me, and I sit down. He said, "Let me ask you a question." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Who's that lady over there in the living room that you kissed on your way in?" I said, "Well, that's my mother, sir." He said, "Yes, it is, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, yes, sir." I was always respectful, And he said, well, the more importantly than her being your mother, she is my wife. And she is not your maid. And weren't you told, since we've been living here, that before you go to school every morning to clean that bedroom? I said, yes, sir. He says, is it clean? I said, no, sir. He said, well, get to it. And that's how he corrected me. So I knew that this illustrates a simple act like performing your daily rituals with attention and care, but it became a very powerful practice for me to cultivate awareness and my personal integrity. Rather than rushing or hiding, the yogi pauses, acknowledges his mistakes, and corrects them, modeling the humility and courage that Dharma demands. So I think I blended that story quite well into this narrative. Then there's a practical guidance for choosing Dharma. You pause and you reflect, you act properly, you do your actions, and you align them with your deepest value. You speak truthfully, even when difficult, and choose honesty over convenience. Words have the power to heal or harm. Accept imperfection. Dharma is not about perfection, but about striving to do what is right, even when you falter. Serve others, shift the focus from self-centered gain to well-being of others, and foster the compassion and connection that Dharma enlightens you towards. Practice forgiveness. When deceived or when deceived or you deceive, respond with forgiveness and a commitment to growth. Well, after I cleaned that room and I went back in the living room, a little later, the evening news came on, and it was Walter Cronkite, or someone like that, I grew up sitting on the couch next to my dad watching Walter Cronkite, and in the old days it was Huntley Brinkley and folks like that. So when I walked in the room, there he's sitting and he's tuning into Walter Cronkite or the evening news, and I kind of reluctant to go sit on the couch next to him like I normally do. And he looked up at me, and then he took his left hand and he patted the cushion of the couch. In other words, all was forgiven. I was old enough to know what to do, and he reminded me of that. I was old enough to know that the best servant you have is to serve yourself. And I was reminded my mother was not my servant. She was my mother and his wife. And there ends the lesson. Okay. So, got about 20 minutes in here, so let's do as we normally do. If you enjoyed this, I hope you did. It seemed to go fast for me. And if you didn't, that's all right too. But if you enjoyed it, please share it with friends and family. And let's get the word out. Washington needs to do what it needs to do. It needs to practice its Dharma. It needs to practice its manners, its truthfulness. And remember, they are servants of the people up there. They're not there for self-enrichment and empowerment. They, and to collect political capital, they are there to serve we, the people. And there it ends. So be good to yourself, be good to others, and be good to strangers. And remember, in my earlier videos, I spoke about someday soon, things will start getting better. And here they are. Who would have imagined they would come to us this quickly, this soon? And I think that's a good place to stop. This is video number 3 on the subject. Yogi Goes to Washington. And I'll be writing the next one tomorrow, which will be video number 4. So good night to you, and thank you.